It has been 2 weeks since I've made a video, and I titled that video, The End. Now, I still think that video title is proper, but I don't think it's the end of the Yotes as we know it. It's the end of the Yotes as we know it. It's the end of the Yotes as we know it. It's the end of the Yotes as we know it. I feel fine. Now, while I do think that that's the proper way to end that, I think it's proper to say that it's the end of a chapter and not the end of a story. Because like the story of a cowboy who's in this land, maybe on a farm or on a ranch, and I know how we all know about ranches, Shandon, and he's with his family, but there's a plague going around. And it's just picking everything off. It's taking everything away from this cowboy. He has to do something. He has to do something drastic. So he gets on his horse and he takes off. He goes as far west as he can go until he hits a land that's fresh, that's new, that's stable. In the same right, the coyotes are on the same path. They are leaving an unstable ownership, a place where they were not going to thrive in a 4,600 seat arena. Unfortunately, that's just not feasible. And they went off to greener pastures. That's the transition. But you want to know what both stories have in common? The cowboy got on his horse and took off west until he found stable ground. You want to know what that cowboy left behind? That cowboy went and left behind his family. In the same right, the coyotes move and they move to Utah. And they left behind family, their fans. And that's not saying that the cowboy or the coyotes, either of them are in the wrong. I don't think that for a second. They had to do what they had to do to survive. The cowboy had to get on that horse and make it out of town because otherwise he'd get sick. The coyotes had to get out of town because otherwise their organization would be sick from the stuff that Morello was throwing into the system. But like anything, where someone has to walk away from family, it hurts. And we know that. We have experienced that. We've experienced the pain through everything. But you want to know something? At the end of a lot of those stories, very seldom have I seen one of those end in tragedy. The cowboy ends up waiting it out, waiting out the storm, waiting for the sickness to end. And the first thing that he does when that sickness ends and everything starts to regrow and everything starts to freshen up is he goes back on his horse and goes back east and goes back home. Goes back with family. Now this man is not the same man that left. This man has been shaped in a different landscape, in a different way to what he was raised as, what the family knows. So he comes back. It's not going to look like the mother's son, the brother's brother, the sister's brother. It's not going to look the same to that family. In the same right, we're not getting the Coyotes back. That team is in Utah now, but the Coyotes, I am certain, will be back. It's too big a market. It's too favorable a market. They just didn't have the right people at the head. So the Coyotes, as far as I'm concerned, is going to be back. And when they come back, they're going to look different. But family will see family. So for now, obviously, I'm going to be following the Utah Hockey Club. I've talked about it before. I'm in the midst of remodeling everything and redoing logos, outros, intros, things like that, making it so that the intro isn't 40 seconds long. I will say, in the name of transition, I will not be referring to the team as the Utah Hockey Club. This next part is going to be something that some people might not like, and I get it. But I am going to be calling them the Utah Coyotes until they have an identity. Because, for one, I'm not going to call them the hockey club when I do the intro of like, oh, hockey club wins. That's stupid. So their identity is going to be the YOTES. Now, that's going to come with the repercussions of people who just either want to let the team die or don't want them to be called that for a number of reasons. And I understand, but at the same time, understand that really captures the essence of a transition. They have transitioned to the Utah team, but they haven't transitioned away from their identity as the Coyotes. This is the path that the Cowboy takes, where he's halfway to his new destination. He's halfway there, and he's still longing to be back with his family, but he knows that the path ahead is better for him. So it's that transition of having those two separate identities all mixed into one. And I want to capture that at least for one more season. At least until they have an identity. And even if they come up with the name and not the branding, and they're like, oh, it's the Utah Yeti or what have you, and that happens like in October, I'm still going to call them the Coyotes for one more season. On the note of transition, I want to bring up some transitions that are going to happen within the channel. I've already mentioned a few. Outro, intro, logo. Those are all getting changed around. They're getting shortened as far as the intro is concerned. There will be an outro. The logo's being Utah-ified. There will be a Coyotes memento sort of thing in there. So that'll be fun. I'll have to figure out how that's going to work, but there's going to be one for all three of the things. My space is going to get a lot smaller because I'm moving. So I'll have more, so it'll become easier to soundproof. It'll become easier to tailor to my specific needs. It's going to be really nice, actually. I won't have to contend with a radio in the other room. I won't have to contend with the fan. I won't have to contend with the heater that should not be blasting to 26 degrees Celsius in the summer. I don't have to contend with that. So I'm very excited for that opportunity. The other thing that's also kind of exciting, but also kind of scary, and it also means I'm not going to college this fall, is I am getting surgery on my shoulders. Because right now, and I'm not allowed to do this, but I'm going to do it anyway, don't tell anyone, is I can relocate the shoulder. That's not supposed to happen. So what they're going to do is they're going to stab the shoulder, fix the shoulder, reattach the shoulder, except it's like not detached. I don't know exactly how it works. All I know is that they stab the shoulder, fix the shoulder, put it together, send me home. I have to recover for 6 months, then they do the same with this shoulder. So it's going to be a heck of a time. And at the very least, barring how long it can take to wait for a surgery in Canada, it could take upwards of 2 years to recover. So, on the one hand, I won't be going to college until I'm healed. On the other hand, I'll have time to focus on the channel. I'll have time to do more stuff, and I'll have time to figure out how to have fun, even if my arm's like this for 6 months. It's actually like 6 weeks, but still, I'm not really allowed to do much. I'll figure it out. So that's some of the bigger things that are happening. And I've got to say, I'm kind of excited for it. It's a new chapter in my life as well as it is for this team. The other thing I want to talk about is growth. And I'm going to be a bit more narcissistic on this one. I'm going to talk a bit more about myself. The team has grown a lot, don't get me wrong. The prospects have grown. The stars have grown. Ingram's grown. Vejmelka's grown. But Ingram's story is insane. If you haven't read it, go and take a read. He's come a long way to become probably my favorite goaltender. I wouldn't say like the best, but he's been my favorite goaltender by far. But I want to talk about the growth of my channel just a little bit. For one, I've gotten better at editing, and I credit that to a person by the name of Ethan. Ethan, if you still watch these, I haven't talked to Ethan in so long. And I just want to say right there, bit of growth happening as we speak. Don't lose your connections with people, especially people that are trying to help you grow. So, I have gotten better at editing through help, assistance, advice, stuff like that. Ethan was a big part of that. And you can look back at some of my older videos and they were really not good. And as much credit as Ethan deserves, and he deserves way more credit than I think I've given him. I also have to credit my camera just a little bit. I have found, like, I've become louder. I've become more obnoxious, I think, on some of my videos. And that is due to the camera. That is due to the fact that the camera, sometimes when I was talking a bit softer, would take the audio, drop it down, bring it back up, and I'd have to try and edit that, and it was stupid. I've been recommended to try and get different equipment for it, and I wholeheartedly agree with that, but I am not in a position to be able to get that equipment, so I have to make do with what I've got. And I figured out that if I'm loud consistently, I don't ever have to worry about that. So I just got louder out of necessity. So Ethan by far gets almost all the credit for how my editing has taken off from what it was to what it is now. And there's still a lot of growth to go. But I do have to blame the camera for some of it. The other thing I want to talk about in growth is obviously the channel itself in numbers. There was a 1,400 view video. It was against the Toronto Maple Leafs, and it was, I think, the first one where the Coyotes lost to the Toronto Maple Leafs. And I borrowed a Steve Dangle picture, and that's probably where most of the views came from. Because they're like, oh, it's Steve Dangle. Oh, wait, well, that's not Steve Dangle. So that was my most viewed video. But I kind of cheated on that. So we're going to ignore that and go to the fact that I've got 50 subscribers as of right now. And for a couple of reasons, that's insane. Like, the first reason it's insane is because it's 50. This is a pet project. I was not expecting 50. I was expecting, like, maybe 10. And the other side of that is it's not even 50 people I know. These are people, for the most part, I think it's 46. I can name 4 people that I know. And it's all, like, family and one friend. Before you start yelling at me on text, by the way, I counted my girlfriend into the family slot. So it's like, it's 4 people I know. And 46 I don't. And that's insane. Because that's 46 people who have never met me, who have never known me, who jumped onto the channel and have committed to getting notifications that I upload new things sometimes, just for the sake of hearing me. And it's surreal. It's really wild to think about. I do have to thank one more person also. There is one channel that I have kind of been mutually talking to and getting advice from and critiques and a whole bunch of kind words. That's Clearing the Benches. And I probably would have stopped halfway through the season if it wasn't for him. Because I was getting to a point where it didn't seem like I could keep up with it, with the other stuff that was going on. But yet, here was this person who didn't know me. I believe he lives in New York, actually. I could be wrong on that. It's someone who has never met me, and I've never met them, who's standing by and supporting me. And that meant the world to me. Because that meant that there was someone out there who could look at me and be like, I don't give a rat's rear end about him. And instead, he lifted me up. And that goes for every single subscriber, as well as every single viewer that has touched the channel. Because every single view, every single subscriber, every single number that goes up on my channel has been just a new person that has supported me, that has been there beside me, even if it's for 10 seconds, because maybe I'm a bit too obnoxious that day. I get it. But it's still support, and I'm so appreciative of it. And I just want to say thank you. And a real quick, very special thank you to my girlfriend. I haven't asked her. It's like 2 in the morning, so it's like 3 in the morning her time. I haven't asked if I'm allowed to use her name, but I do know the rest of you will get to meet her pretty soon here, actually. If only for like a video sort of thing. Either way, you'll get to kind of meet her. I'm kind of excited for that opportunity as well. So, yeah. So I'll be back. We're past the sentimental stuff. We're gonna get into some fun stuff. I promise I won't leave for 2 weeks again. I do think I'm gonna do that after each season, though. I might just take 2 weeks to myself and just kind of take a chill pill, if that makes sense. But there will be some new stuff coming out during the summer. In the meantime, stay howling. Go Yotes. Thank you so much for watching.